Okay, well, Jazz, the last time we spoke with each other was at Hammersmith College. It was, well, probably about 10 years ago now. And I know that you have a deep interest in creativity and innovation. And I've been running these conferences for the last 4 years. And every year we have a debate, we have a discourse around creativity. And this year the theme is presence, emergence, and impact. I'm not sure what your approach to creativity is, in the sense that some people say, well, everyone's creative, you know, we all have the potential to express creativity, and others will say, no, you have to have talent, you know, otherwise the word becomes meaningless. What's your approach? Do you believe that each one of us has the potential to be creative? Because it's a linguistic matter, you know, it's like linguistically, what does the word creativity mean for you? And in that regard, how important is presence?
Yeah, I think looking at creativity from the simplest perspective, it's a kind of experimentation, but it's also something that, if we were to look at it from a philosophical perspective, it's about making a difference. You can make a difference through art, through writing, in a traditional creative sense. But obviously, you can make a difference as well in the world, in terms of changing the world in some way, maybe through leadership, maybe by doing a campaign, or maybe inventing something. So creativity is kind of many different facets. And I'm someone who works in a creative institution. I work at Ravensbourne University in London as a creative arts institution, where they do degrees in fashion, architecture, product design, and they have their own TV studios because they teach digital film and television there as well. And we've got people from very kind of high level backgrounds that originated in their creativity from Ravensbourne, including people like David Bowie, Stella McCartney. We had the producers of The King's Speech come from here, lots of designers from Yves Saint Laurent and other major fashion houses. So creativity is very much kind of in the veins of the kind of institution I work in. But my job is to look at creativity and how it can be enhanced using technology. So when you go about trying to enhance creativity, obviously you need to know a little bit about what it is in advance before you go about trying to adjust it. And part of creativity for me is very much about three things. If you really want something different to come out of a person, something that makes a difference to them, or makes a difference to their art or their discipline, then you typically are going to need to get them to work on three different things. And those three things are their talents, the natural talents that they've got to do things, or they don't even need to try and they happen to be pretty good at something. The second thing is their passions, things that they might not necessarily have a talent in, but they've got a lot of heart for and they're very enthusiastic about. And thirdly, the sense of responsibility, the sense of duty, if you like. Sometimes you might not necessarily be talented in something or even passionate about it, but you're called to do it because of a sense of duty or responsibility. So, you know, if you're a mother for the first time, you might not have any experience or talent in being a mother, but it's your responsibility to obviously look after your child. And creativity is very similar in the same sense, because whether you're giving birth to a child or giving birth to an idea, those three factors play strongly in whether or not what you actually end up generating is something that can be considered to be creative. So when I work with people, I often ask them, you know, what talents do you have? What passions do you have? And what sense of responsibility do you have? And often these three things are very different things. They're not necessarily the same thing. So you certainly could be talented in something, but your heart's just not in it. You know, you just don't want to do it. And you can end up being a bit of a diva. And there are a lot of people who hide like that, who are very talented in what they do, but their heart's just not in it. But then there are some people who seem to find the sweet spot. They seem to know that they've got something that they can be talented in. They know there's something that they've got their heart into, and they also have a sense of responsibility, professionalism, and duty towards that thing. And what I've discovered is when people find something that fits in all three categories, they find something they're talented in, they're passionate about, and they have a sense of responsibility towards, they're the ones who end up coming up with the most amazing creative outputs or innovations or novel kind of creations, and that's something that's could happen with anybody, of course. So I believe very much that creativity is something that can be fostered in anybody. It just is a matter of discovering the right talent or developing the right talent. It's about unearthing the passion that person has or cultivating it. And lastly, it's about obviously fostering a sense of responsibility towards what they're doing. There's lots of people who are very careless with their creativity. They've got the talent, they've got the passion, but they just don't look after what they do. They're irresponsible. And as a result, they don't achieve anything anywhere near the kind of level they could. So I very much believe that anybody can be creative. It's just about getting the proportions of their talents and their passions and their responsibilities just right for that particular individual in their circumstances. And then what happens is you hit the sweet spot, this kind of alchemical point where creativity naturally starts to emerge within that person. And it's not just a flash in the pan kind of creativity. It's something that's sustainable. It's something that can be sustained over a long period of time.
And as you're talking about passion, I think about the relationship between passion and presence. Do you think that those two are integral to each other?
Yeah, currently I'm mentoring 11 different women across the world as part of a women's mentoring program. And part of that journey is for them to come up with creative ideas for their businesses. And an important part of that is presence. And we spend a lot of time talking about what I call, and previously people have called gravitas. It's literally to do with the weight of your character and the dent it's making in the universe, the impact it's making. And over the years, when I've been coaching and mentoring people, because of my background in physics and science, I'm very interested in the nature of time and space. And when all of who you are is showing up right here, right now, in this moment, then all of your energy is right here in this moment of time and this point in space. And in physics, when energy is really focused and located in one point in time and one point in space, one point in space time, there's an intense concentration of gravity. And that metaphorically is exactly what happens with a person. And all of them is located right here, right now. And they're not distracted by things in their past or their future or things that are going on around them. When they have the capability to be fully present in time, fully present in the space they're in, then they literally have all their energy right there. And as they have all their energy right there, they literally have a really focused and intense kind of gravitational field. And it literally pulls in people. It attracts people towards that individual. It makes them somebody that can be highly drawn towards. But that, in other words, is just presence. That's really what it is. But the underlying science of presence, it isn't just about being in the moment. It's also about having the right intention in the moment. It's about having the right attention in the moment. And that combination of intention and attention, combined with a person's will and sense of free will, is what determines the level of presence that they have in a given moment. So you can have all the good intentions in the world, but if you're not paying attention to what you're doing in a given moment, then you find obviously that person is not very present. But equally, you could have someone who's fully paying attention, but unfortunately they're paying attention to the wrong intention, the wrong things. And it can lead to their energy being very much in a state of turbulence. And lastly, if their energy isn't there at all, they could be paying attention and having the right intention, but their willpower just is not motivating them to be there in that moment. Then again, the presence is something that's going to be undermined. So presence is central to creativity because it involves helping people cultivate intentions, pay the right attention to those intentions, and really put their heart and their soul, their willpower, their sense of free will, and engaging that in service to that intention and in cultivating attention towards whatever that person has an intention to be creative around. So presence for me is very much those three things. If someone's got the right intentions, they're paying the right attention, right level of attention to their correct intention, and they're doing it with a force, a motivation, a drive, a willpower, a truly free will, then you find that individual is all there. They're not somewhere else. They're all there. They're very present to you, and they feel that they also can generate a presence in the room. And like I said, with something like gravity, if you have a gravitas to you, you will have something that literally acts like a field and pulls in people towards you, but also generates an impact without you even having to say anything. And often people, of course, relate that to the idea of presence as well. So I think there's a close, intimate relationship between gravitas and presence, and specifically how intention, attention, and will are coupled together in the right ways to enable the person to be truly in the room.
That's right. Some people do, just their mere presence in a room seems to make an impact, even though they haven't actually done anything or said anything, but their mere presence makes an impact. But you talk about intention, and when we're exploring emergence is usually unplanned, it's unimagined, it's unforeseen. So what is the relationship between what our intention is and responding to what emerges that we were not expecting?
Well, again, when I've been coaching and mentoring people, one of the big challenges is a cultural thing. It's partly to do with what people do in the East and what people do in the West. In the West, people are very goal oriented, and what they tend to do is set a goal and they try and acquire the resources in order to go and meet that goal. But if they don't find the resources, then the goal never gets met. In the East, it's the other way around. People tend to spend a lot of time gathering resources in the hope that one day they can channel it towards some sort of goal. But if they don't find that goal, the resources can kind of expire, get out of date, and they're not of any use anymore. So that can apply to people's talents, skills, monies, investments, all sorts of things. So what I realized was that both East and West had this problem where the West put goals first and energy and resources second, and in the East it was the other way around. But what was really needed was to take an emergent approach to working with goals and resources. The best approach is to look at what's going on right now in terms of what resources a person has available to them, and based on the resources that are available, what kind of goal could be created from those resources in the moment. So in the mentoring, a lot of coaches work on helping people kind of discover their life purpose. But I found that's a bit of a red herring when it helps people to find themselves. And a better thing to do is not find a purpose for their whole life, but to actually just find a purpose for their day, and make the best of their day. And that way they can make the best of themselves based on what they've got around them that day. They can choose a goal which is going to make the best of themselves and make them a better version of themselves by the end of the day. Now, if they do that day by day, what happens is there's an emergent process of growth. And slowly they discover they tend to return to the same kind of priorities often. And that at the heart of these priorities, at the center of gravity of these priorities, is a longer term purpose. But that can't be discovered just by filling in a personality profile and being told this is your future. You really have to plug into the moment each day. And it's very much like how pixels, picture elements are created to make up a picture on a computer screen. Just one pixel isn't enough for you to see the whole picture. But obviously, as you add more and more pixels over time, if you add the right pixels in the right places, you don't need that many pixels before you get what the picture might be. It's a bit like joining the dots. If you just have the right dots in the right places, slowly being placed, it won't take long before you begin to see what the picture might be. And this is before you've even had to join up the dots. So there's a secret sauce, if you will, which is if you help people discover the right resources at the right time, and then over time a picture begins to build up, it emerges, and they begin to see, oh, I think I know where this is going, I think I know what this is meant to be. And then without, like I said, even having to join the dots, they just get it. It just snaps into a kind of a presence for them, and then that they make an intuitive leap, and they usually have some kind of creative quantum shift that happens that makes them go over a threshold of awareness and leaps into a whole new kind of vista of creativity and development, all those kind of things. But it's an emergent process. You literally have to create a goal every day for the day, and then over time, if you've chosen the right goals and you've acted with the right resources, a bigger goal starts to emerge, and you you get to see something that is literally your bigger picture.
And it's all about, yes, as you say, seeing these emergent patterns arising. And sometimes those patterns that are arising are not the patterns that we want to be involved with. You know, not every
Yeah.
pattern is going to be a beneficial or conducive or, you know, purposeful pattern. And sometimes it's a case of having to disrupt those patterns, isn't it? We have to disrupt
Yeah, well,
our
I
emergent.
found that people need to do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're right. My day job is about identifying disruption in various industries, and then hopefully enabling industries and people to take advantage of what they discover to create responses and solutions, create solutions to those disruptions rather than being disturbed by them in a way which is negative. They can take advantage of the disturbance and capitalize on the energy that actually emerges. And there are three kind of ways in which that can be done, that disturbance can be looked at. The disturbance could be a positive one, in which case it reinforces the current strengths of someone or an organization. It can be one which is challenging, which forces people to change, and not always necessarily in ways that they like. And thirdly, it might be a disturbance that doesn't necessarily change things, but it does force people to start thinking differently about what's going on. And the current COVID situation is a perfect example of that. For some people, it's an opportunity. For other people, it's a challenge. And for others, it's neither an opportunity or a challenge. It's just something that they are immune to and that they have to reflect with, because everybody else around them is being affected by what's going on. So support, challenge, and reflection are really critical responses to anything that could emerge as a pattern that is going to take people out of their comfort zone. And you know, if you don't know how to put in the right kind of support, then you're going to find this situation excessively challenging. But then again, if you don't challenge yourself and change, you could be in a state of collusion with yourself about what's going on in denial. And the next time a serious bit of challenge comes your way, no matter how much support you're generating for yourself, how much money you have or health, you might not be able to cope with it. And lastly, you might have all the support in the world and you are forcing yourself and challenging yourself to try and change, but maybe you're doing it on the wrong things. Maybe you're reflecting on the wrong things, and maybe it's possible you're overthinking things and not acting quickly enough, or the opposite, you're not thinking enough and you're acting too rashly. So those three things, support, challenge, reflection, they're almost like vitamins. You need to kind of get your 3 a day every day. If you don't have the right support, if you're not challenged enough each day, if you're not spending enough time in reflection, you're going to find that your growth or your ability to be resilient and respond to disturbances is going to be undermined. So they're literally like vitamins. You need to get your 3 a day. And when you don't, that's when you fail to grow. That's when you start demonstrating a pathology where you're suffering in some kind of way, or you're just not functioning. So they
Yeah.
grow. They can do all those sort of things, but at the end of the day, if you don't get the mix right, if you get the mix of support, challenge, and reflection right, then typically for any person, a disturbance will be something that will end up uh, not being pleasant for them. It'll undermine them, and it'll.
Okay, Jazz. Yeah, the internet connection seems to be unstable now. So,
Okay.
okay, yeah, it's breaking up. So, well, thank you very much, Jazz, for your interesting approach and your ideas. And just to sum up, then, what would you say, just to summarize, what presence, emergence, and impact mean to you in your approach to creativity?
Presence, emergence, and impact are fundamentally to do with how you manage your will in a given moment, and that involves what intention you're working with, and also how you're paying attention to what you're doing. If you've got the right intention for the moment, and you're devoting the right amount of attention to it with a will that's really free, that isn't obliged to things that are disempowering to you, then you will find you will have a gravitas, a presence in the moment. You will be making a dent in that moment. And if you do this on a day-by-day basis, a greater awareness of your purpose in life will emerge, and a momentum will build up. And as the momentum builds up day by day, whenever you connect with things, instead of just making an impression with those things, because of the momentum you generate and the focus you generated, you're also going to create an impact as well. So those three things tied together, the element of presence with emergence of momentum, ultimately leads to the impact that is a consequence of those things.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Jazz. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jesvir. Take care.
Bye-bye.